Welcome to the Daily Insider here on VegasInsider.com, also on YouTube. Kevin Rogers with you. Friday, March 12th, 2021, and a very busy day in college basketball already. Several games have begun in the conference tournaments, and the big news of the day, the Virginia Cavaliers will not be playing as they were knocked out before even playing Georgia Tech today, as they had a COVID case on their team, tested this morning, and Virginia, the second team to be knocked out of the ACC tournament because of COVID. And it was Duke last night against Florida State. FSU got the free pass to play today against North Carolina. And the Virginia Cavaliers, after beating Syracuse at the buzzer, they will not be playing in the ACC tournament in the semifinals against Georgia Tech. So the Yellow Jackets heading to the championship after they beat Miami yesterday. And now the big question for Virginia is, with the tournament starting up next week, they need 7 straight days of negative tests. So we'll see how that one turns out. Remember, there's an extra day now that these teams don't play Thursday, and I wonder if the way the schedule will go in the brackets, if they give Virginia an extra day and let them play Saturday, because remember, they play Friday, Saturday this year in the first round, not Thursday, Friday. Thursday's the play-in games. So at least these teams are getting a few extra days. Everyone's going to Indiana for this tournament, but they get a few extra days. So maybe Virginia, because they're going to be in the tournament, they will be playing Saturday, maybe give them a little extra time. But we'll see how this turns out. So you just got to hope that when the tournament starts next week, you don't have any issue where a team has got to, if the team has a COVID issue, then the other team just automatically advances. So hopefully they can get through these few weeks without any situations like that. So with all that being said, let us look at college basketball. And also we have free picks for today as well that we'll get to. And the free picks went 2-0 yesterday. Scott Rickenbach, you see up here, he had the over in the Butler-Creighton game, and that easily hit in college basketball. And also the NBA free pick that we gave away yesterday from ASA, the Brooklyn Nets laying the points to Boston, and he won on that. So our free plays so far are 4-1 through the first few days since we've given away the free plays on the Daily Insider. So that's good. And we have 2 more, college basketball and NBA, coming up in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. Let's look at the games in progress now in college basketball. Michigan was down early to Maryland in the Big Ten quarterfinals, but they lead at 57-47. You see the Wolverines laying 8.5 in that game, and Michigan starting to pull away in that one. And coming up at 2 o'clock, it's Ohio State and Purdue, the second game inside of the Big Ten. And the Buckeyes snapping a 4-game skid by beating Minnesota yesterday by 4. Didn't cover as 10.5-point favorites. And obviously the Buckeyes not looking good from an ATS standpoint after they were rolling here in late January through mid-February. Now they get Purdue, who they lost to at home back on January 19th, 67-65. And they lost on the road at Purdue by 7. So a double revenge spot for the Buckeyes. And Purdue comes into today's matchup. They've won 5 straight. They beat Indiana yesterday. The Hoosiers, who knows if they'll move on from Archie Miller after this, because they had a terrible meltdown towards the end of the season. But Purdue has won and covered 5 straight games. So they are looking good. They got squeezed by Minnesota and lost by 1 to Maryland. So they're playing really well right now. You know, they just had this bad loss to Michigan, but since January 8th, the Purdue Boilermakers have played very well. So keep an eye on them today. Rutgers and Illinois tonight at 6:30 from Lucas Oil Stadium. And Illinois playing their first game of the Big Ten tournament. They've won 4 in a row. They've won at Ohio State over the weekend. And you see here 3 consecutive outright wins on the road as a dog against Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio State. So a very good job there by the Fighting Illini. And now they're laying points, which they've had success as a short favorite, but now, you know, you're in the spot of laying 8 points against a Rutgers squad that still has got something to play for to get in this tournament. They beat Indiana, and I misspoke for a second. Let me go back to what I said. Purdue was off yesterday. I said they beat Indiana. I was wrong on that. Rutgers beat Indiana. Purdue was one of the 4 teams that had the bye, so I misspoke on that one. So excuse me on that one. But Rutgers, they beat Indiana yesterday. So let me go back to what I said. Archie Miller's still in trouble. He's still probably going to get fired. So that doesn't change. But the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, though, they've had their ups and downs here. Had a couple losses towards the end of the season. Losing at Nebraska is inexcusable. But they won at Minnesota, beat Indiana, and now they get Illinois. And Rutgers did beat Illinois at home back in late December, so see if Rutgers can do it again. Wisconsin and Iowa tonight. They will wrap up the quarterfinals in the Big Ten, and Wisconsin snuck by Penn State last night, 75-74, snapped a 3-game skid. Now they get Iowa, who they lost to by 15 at home last month, and again, Wisconsin was playing well to start the season. You see all these wins, and then it just kind of fell apart over the last month or so. And Iowa is still a very good team. And they've won 3 in a row. And Iowa's facing Wisconsin for a second straight time after beating them last weekend. And Iowa got that win at Ohio State. Iowa's a team that can really make some moves in the NCAA tournament. USF, now going to the American. USF led Wichita State at the half. They went on a huge run before halftime. And they were getting 11.5 today against the Shockers, who they just lost to. They just got blown out at Wichita State. Now they're playing them again, this time in Texas, in the quarterfinals of the American. And USF holding their own. Could knock out the number 1 seed Wichita State Shockers. Wichita State's in the tournament. They're fine even if they lose this one. And USF, they're not going to the NCAA tournament, but we'll see if USF can pull this one out. They've lost to Wichita State twice this season. SMU and Cincinnati. This is interesting at 3 o'clock. SMU last played February 8th. Look at that. It's been that long since the SMU Mustangs have played a game, just because of COVID issues. And now they play Cincinnati, who they lost to at home back in early January. And Cincinnati, down the stretch, they had a couple tough losses at home to Memphis and Vandy. They blew out East Carolina in their last game. And Cincinnati's actually been decent on the road. I hate saying throw out a game, but Houston, they had no shot in that game. So we'll throw out the Houston game. But they beat Tulsa on the road. They beat Tulane on the road. They beat Temple on the road. Lost to Wichita State. Won at SMU, as I mentioned. I mean, a couple duds here, losing to UCF and Georgia. But Cincinnati at least has some confidence playing away from, I guess this is still the Shoemaker Center, or Fifth Third Bank Arena, or whatever it's called now. But now they go back to Texas, where SMU has somewhat of a home court advantage. But you get SMU off the long break. See what Cincinnati does. Tulane is a huge dog to Houston today, or tonight rather. And Houston, we know how they can blow everyone out. Houston beat Tulane. I got the greens confused. Houston played Tulane back on January 28th, won by 23, laying 15.5. Laid 17 on January 9th, won by 21. So obviously Houston has Tulane's number in this game. Tulane beat Tulsa yesterday to advance. UCF and Memphis, they are the late night chase game in the AAC. And UCF actually played Memphis in back-to-back games because they had a game postponed in early January, so they played 2 in Memphis. And the Tigers won both those games by double digits. So now USF's got to play Memphis again. And this time, they're in that same price range. Well, they're getting 7 now. So they're getting 9, getting 11, now they're getting 7. And UCF was kind of up and down this season, but playing well right now. They've won 5 straight. The competition wasn't really great, but still, they hung with Wichita State. I mean, let's look at the better teams. Hung with Wichita State twice. Blown out by Memphis. Blown out by Houston. Blown out by SMU. So I guess UCF, when they play not so good teams, they're fine. When they play better teams, they're not so fine. SEC, Alabama was up at the half. They were leading Mississippi State by 30 points. All right, and let me get you the latest update on that game. They were up by 30 in the first half over Alabama. 47-19, and that's okay, so that is the same score, and they They're still at halftime there in Nashville. Alabama laying 8, up by nearly 30. I think you're safe if you have the Crimson Tide in that game. And Mississippi State, who hung on against Kentucky, and just no match for Alabama, who's a team that could end up as maybe the number 2 seed in one of these regions. I don't think they'll get a 1. The only way they get a 1, well, now Virginia is not going to win the ACC. And Michigan is not going to lose today to Maryland. If Illinois loses tonight to Rutgers, I think that's probably a stretch. So Alabama, the best they'll do is maybe a 2, as long as they keep it up. But they're a dangerous team. Florida and Tennessee, they're the next game up in the SEC at 2:30. And the Gators, a bit up and down towards the end. They did lose at Tennessee by 11 in their last game. And Florida coming off this win over Vandy yesterday to tip off their portion of the SEC tournament. Didn't cover laying 8. And Florida right now, 2-5 ATS. Let me get 2-6 with that South Carolina loss. 2-6 against the spread their last 8. So Florida has not been a team you can count on necessarily, but they're getting 4.5 today against Tennessee. And the Volunteers, you see up and down, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. I don't know if they're due for a loss with all those trends, but they've not won back-to-back games many times. I mean, here they got off to a good start in non-conference play. But again, Florida and Tennessee split a pair of games earlier this season. Missouri and Arkansas, that's the night action from Nashville. And Arkansas, they have lost 1 game since, call it, I guess, what's January 20th? Is that late January or mid-January? It's kind of in that mid-late range. But last time they lost an SEC game came at Alabama January 16th. So the Arkansas Razorbacks, they have been excellent. And in this stretch, they did beat Missouri in overtime, 86-81 as a 2.5-point dog. Now they're laying 5.5. That opened up at 3. It's at 5.5. Arkansas lost to Missouri at home back in early January, 81-68. That was before Arkansas got hot. Now, Missouri, they had to come back to beat Georgia last night. And Missouri, one of the oddest teams to figure out in the country, because they beat Oregon, they beat Wichita State, they beat Arkansas, they beat Tennessee on the road, and they've lost to Georgia. They got swept by an up-and-down Ole Miss team. They lost at Auburn, lost at Mississippi State. So you kind of wonder which Missouri team are you getting. Also, they won at Florida at the end. So now, this Quanzo Martin's team, do they play better today? And I think there's some value actually in Missouri in this game, just because they are getting I don't say so many points, but I don't know if the odds makers were wrong on that or just the money. I mean, look at the money here. Look at that. People all over Arkansas. They know what they're doing. LSU and Ole Miss, they have the late game tonight in Nashville. And LSU, again, a strong start in SEC play, and then things just kind of fell apart. Back-to-back losses, back-to-back losses, back-to-back losses. They beat Vandy. They had a good win at Missouri. That was a good win at the end of the season. And now they get the Rebels. They won at Ole Miss earlier this season. And Mississippi is playing actually really well down the stretch here. They have won, since losing at Georgia, which kind of got to raise your eyebrows, 4, 5, 6, 9 of 11, and this one, you still kind of scratch your head. I mean, losing to Mississippi State at home laying 7, losing to Vandy on the road laying 10.5. You kind of wonder which Ole Miss team you're getting. But they beat up South Carolina last night. Now they got LSU again. It'll be a good game. LSU laying 1 in that one. UAB and Western Kentucky in Conference USA, they just started the second half, and UAB up by 3 there. That's the semifinals. And you pretty much have the best 4 teams in Conference USA playing right now. UAB and Western Kentucky, and then North Texas and Louisiana Tech. So you don't have any crazy surprises. That's why you see what the lines are. Western Kentucky closed laying 2. North Texas open as a dog, and now it's flipped to North Texas being a favorite against Louisiana Tech. And the first 2 matchups between these 2 teams, Louisiana Tech got the covers back in early February. Louisiana Tech won the first game 68-63. North Texas won the second game 57-55. And Louisiana Tech covered both of those. North Texas was not a really good underdog this year. Now they're a favorite, but some of the teams they lost to, Arkansas, Mississippi State, West Virginia, Loyola Chicago, who won the Missouri Valley, and against Marshall they won, and then they lost. So, I mean, they lost to good competition as an underdog, so that's a hard one. And Louisiana Tech, 21-6, pretty good team. And they're on a nice winning streak here. Beat FAU last night, didn't cover. Had this strong win against Our Lady of the Lake. MAC tonight, Ohio and Toledo, Akron and Buffalo. That one being played in Cleveland, both those games in Cleveland. So we'll see how those turn out. Toledo's the class of the MAC, and Akron and Buffalo should be a pretty good game. Big East, Patrick Ewing, do you know who I am? Walking into Madison Square Garden. Georgetown, back-to-back wins as an underdog, beating up Marquette, edging Villanova, and the Hoyas, who, when you look back at it, have not won 3 straight this year. Won 2 in a row, lost to Villanova. Won 2 in a row, lost to UConn. Won 2 in a row, lost to UConn. So will that trend continue? Georgetown did beat Seton Hall back on February 20th and lost at Seton Hall. Now, the Pirates did everything they could to give away that game against St. John's yesterday. Everything. But Seton Hall beat St. John's in overtime by 8. They bounced back from losing to St. John's this past weekend. Ended a 4-game skid, so maybe the Seton Hall turn the corner. We'll see. They're favored against Georgetown. UConn and Creighton, that's going to be an excellent game coming up in the Big East. Coming up tonight. UConn and Creighton both off blowout wins last night. UConn destroyed DePaul. And UConn lost at Creighton by 8, getting 8.5 in January. Lost at home to Creighton by 2, getting 4. So Creighton winning both the matchups, and now it's a pick'em. And Creighton getting the money here after their head coach returns to the sidelines. Last night, McDermott. They beat Butler a couple times, beat DePaul. I mean, good win over Villanova, but beating DePaul and Butler, not exactly impressive. I know Butler was competitive, but still. So, winners of those games, they play tomorrow in the Big East Championship. ACC, no Virginia, Georgia Tech to break down because Georgia Tech advanced. Can't say they won the game, they just advanced because of Virginia's COVID issue. So, Virginia's gone. Georgia Tech is waiting for the winner of Carolina and Florida State. FSU has not played a game yet in the ACC tournament because they got the double bye, and then Duke had a COVID case, so they advanced past Duke, and now they got Carolina. Last time FSU took the floor, they lost at Notre Dame last week by 10. And last time they faced North Carolina, they lost by 8 at Chapel Hill, and FSU was up comfortably in that game. FSU did beat Carolina in Tallahassee by 7 back in mid-January. And North Carolina, they have looked really good so far in this tournament as they beat up Notre Dame, they knock off Virginia Tech, and they're playing well. They had a little bit of a clunker here against Marquette in that makeup game. Lost by 2 at Syracuse, but Roy's team is playing well. Can't take anything away from them. Big 12, Oklahoma State and Baylor. That's a really good game. Baylor edged Kansas State as 20-point favorites yesterday, 74-68. Still, Baylor not terribly sharp since returning from COVID. Oklahoma State lost to Baylor by 11, getting 12 back on March 4th. And Baylor beat Oklahoma State in Stillwater by 15. So 2 wins for Baylor against Oklahoma State, both by double digits. And for the Cowboys with Cade Cunningham, who's a freshman of the year, one of the top players in the country. He'll go to the NBA next year. He's led this Oklahoma State team. I know he was hurt in one of these games, but 7-1 the last 8, losing to Baylor. I mean, losing to Kansas, that's a bad loss at TCU. But Oklahoma State's been very good. And, you know, no one would think that the top recruit in the country would go to Oklahoma State necessarily, but he went there, and now they face Baylor. Winner of that game gets Texas-Kansas winner, and the Longhorns, who beat the Jayhawks in Austin in overtime back on February 23rd by 3. They were down double digits at the half, And Texas has played well. Shaka's team, 4 straight wins, beating Texas Tech last night, winning at Oklahoma. We see Oklahoma kind of melted down towards the end of the season. And now they got the Jayhawks. Kansas was up big on Oklahoma last night. They led by 20. And the Sooners came back, made it interesting. I think got it down about 3 in the second half. But KU pulled away, and the Jayhawks, except for this, lost in overtime to Texas. Look at what they've done recently. I mean, that's pretty good, and they just need to get a signature. Well, I want to say a signature road win, but they're playing at T-Mobile Center, which was formerly the Sprint Center. Now it's T-Mobile in Kansas City, which is a 40-minute drive from Lawrence. So it's not like saying the Jayhawks are playing in a road atmosphere. But still, they lost to Texas earlier in the year. In Lawrence, they got blown out, and then they lost in Austin. So double revenge for Kansas coming up this evening. We've got the Big Sky, a pair of games, the WAC, a pair of games. We're really not going to go over those. Just want to hit on the Pac-12 quickly. And the Civil War Part 3, Oregon and Oregon State. Oregon, who has played extremely well since losing at home to Washington State back in early February. And also they lost at home to Oregon State by 11 back on January 23rd. They just beat Oregon State in Corvallis 80-67 and coming off a rout of Arizona State. So Dana Altman's team on fire. Oregon State rallied back to shock UCLA in overtime last night. And the Beavers playing well. Hitting a lot of overs, covering these games. And look at what Oregon State has done. 4, 5, 6, 7-1, 8-1 against the spread the last 9. Pretty impressive for the Beavers. Winner of that game gets Colorado USC winner. Colorado beat USC twice this season. Knocked them off in LA by 10. And then beat them by 18 at home. So Colorado's had USC's number this year. And Colorado's playing well. 5 straight wins. They held off Cal last night, laying 16.5. And now they get USC. And the Trojans beat Utah last night. Won by 6, laying 7. But for USC, beat UCLA at the buzzer. A couple close shaves here. We'll see what they do coming up tonight for the Pac-12 title. So that's the look at college basketball. Lots to go over. Let's take, actually, before we get to NBA, let's go over a free pick for tonight, shall we? Let's go to our buy picks page. And if you're new to the site, we welcome you. You go to the buy picks page, and if you want to purchase a handicapper selections for the day, you can buy their daily picks for $29.95, and you get all the picks that they provide. So if you want Greg Smith, 5 plays, you get all 5 picks for $29.95. If you want Brian Edwards, 7 plays, you get 7 for $29.95. You can buy multiple handicappers if you want. But what we've done is, too, we have given away a guaranteed pick the last few days. Now, a guaranteed pick means it's $39.95. It's 1 pick, only 1. If it wins, you pay after it wins. If you lose, you don't pay anything. So it's a guarantee to win. And yesterday in college basketball, well, actually 2 days ago, we had Joe Williams. He was on a 14-0 run in college basketball, and he had Texas San Antonio, and they ended up winning, beating Charlotte and covering. That was our free guaranteed pick in college basketball 2 nights ago. Last night, it was Scott Rickenbach, and he had the over in the Butler-Creighton game in the Big East. That one easily went over thanks to Creighton. They scored a bunch of points. So that was a winner. And tonight, our guaranteed selection for free here on the live stream, with you watching the live stream, we appreciate it. So we're going to give away 1 free guaranteed pick. We're going to go to Jim Feist. He's a veteran in the business, and Jim has the winner of Creighton and UConn, so another free pick with Creighton. Creighton and UConn in the Big East. And Jim likes the Huskies of UConn. So Jim has Connecticut +1. It's at a pick'em +1, so really not crazy line movement in that game. And Jim put up this pick about an hour and a half ago, as you see here, posted on 12/01, March 12th. So Jim just put this up. He didn't put it up last night. And he likes UConn to beat Creighton and advance to the Big East Championship. And this is what you get when you buy a guaranteed pick or you buy a pick pack. You get the selection with the analysis, and you take with it what you will. That if you want to back Connecticut or if you want to fade it and go with Creighton, that's your choice. So that is Jim Feist's guaranteed selection for tonight in college basketball, the UConn Huskies against Creighton. And again, you check out our buy picks page in college basketball. Actually, every sport's going on. It's pretty much the same thing. But these are the picks for college basketball, and we'll look at the NBA in a little bit and give you another free selection. But let's go back to the NBA and look back at last night quickly before we look at, we preview tonight's action. Charlotte held off Detroit 105-102. Hornets were laying 4, didn't cover. Game easily stays under the total. I mean, you needed 62 in the fourth, and it still stayed under by 19 points. Brooklyn pulled away from Boston. The Celtics were up in this game, and then it was back and forth, and the Nets pulled away. Kyrie had a huge game. And Brooklyn, I think, is now 11-1 the last 12. 121-109, the Nets beat the Celtics, and Boston continues to struggle on the road. Atlanta, they end up getting a buzzer-beating shot from Tony Snell. And Atlanta wiped out a 15-point deficit. This was a weird game. They were down 15 in the fourth to Toronto, and Toronto's down a bunch of guys because of COVID. Atlanta was up 19 in this game. They were down 15 in the fourth quarter, so a 34-point swing. And yet, they still needed a 3 at the end. Toronto kind of botched this game up. I watched this on the League Pass last night. Norman Powell missed 2 free throws. He's like an 85 or 90% free throw shooter. They had another bad possession down the stretch. And Trae Young made a nice pass because Trae Young's always the guy to keep an eye out for. And he hit Tony Snell, who was wide open, shot the 3 at the buzzer, and Atlanta won. They didn't cover, but they ended up picking up that win against the Raptors, and Atlanta now 2-0 against Toronto this season. The Heat over the Magic, 111-103. Aaron Gordon came back for Orlando. Magic were up early, but the Heat end up pulling away. Game was tied going to the fourth quarter, and Orlando covered as 9-point dogs. Philadelphia, without Joel Embiid, without Ben Simmons, they win at Chicago as a dog, 127-105. Sixers have been bad as a dog this year on the road. But as you see, they were up 7 at the half and just kind of were in control of that game. And bad loss from the Bulls at home. Minnesota, how about this one? Minnesota was down 16 in the first quarter. It was 16 or 18. They won by 30. How about that swing? Down 16 and win by 30. Outscored by 46 points. This bad Minnesota team. I mean, for New Orleans, I don't know what to say about them. They've laid 8 to Minnesota twice this season, and they've lost twice to Minnesota. Minnesota, for some reason, they play well against New Orleans. And the Pelicans continue to be bad as a home favorite. Milwaukee routs New York 134-101. Knicks beat the Bucks earlier in the season. In blowout fashion, the Bucks return the favor here. So Milwaukee continues to stay hot after that 5-game skid. Dallas kind of mailed it in last night. Luka didn't play. Porzingis didn't play. Thunder beat the Mavs 116-108. Game went over the total after the last meeting was way under the total. The Clippers over the Warriors 130-104. And this game finished just above the total. Now, I had them on the free pick video on YouTube, the under in the Warriors-Clippers game. And you see here, what is that, 54-48 at the half. And then you have a 70-point quarter and a 62-point quarter. 132 points scored in the second half between these two teams to go over. And I believe they scored 8 points in the final minute and change. So that one, not a good one. Golden State continues to struggle on the road. Clippers now 2-1 against Golden State this season. Sacramento beats up on Houston 125-105. I mean, the Rockets just aren't a good team. As simple as that. John Wall didn't play last night. I mean, when John Wall plays, they're not a good team. But Sacramento finally gets a comfortable cover, and they beat Houston for the first time in 3 meetings. Phoenix over Portland, 127-121. Suns now all 25 wins they've covered in. 4.5-point favorites, down early, tied at the half, pull away in the fourth quarter. Suns are a machine right now. Let's look at tonight's NBA. 7 games. New Orleans hosting Cleveland. Mentioned the Pelicans, how bad they've been as a home favorite. And let's look at the Cavs really quick. Cleveland's not played a game yet to start the second half. So first time out of the gate for them. 4-1 to close out the first half, and 5-0 ATS run for Cleveland after this huge ATS slump. So Cleveland on a nice little run. New Orleans has been bad as a home favorite, and they're playing with no rest. So take with that what you will. Joel Embiid is back for the Sixers tonight. Ben Simmons not back. Sixers and Wizards, they played earlier this season twice. Philly won at home twice. Now they go to D.C., but the Sixers didn't cover in either of those wins. And Philly's won 3 straight. Washington off the loss to Memphis a few nights ago to start the second half. And Washington's gone a little backwards of late. They've lost 3 of 4 since they went on a good run here. But they have, well, they'll be tested here. Philly, Milwaukee twice. After Sacramento, they get Utah. So Washington's going to be they're going to be an underdog in 4 of those 5 games. They'll be favored against the Kings and underdog in the rest of them. Denver and Memphis. Denver 4-0 on their last road trip. I mean, technically, you say it's the same road trip, but it's not because they came home in between the All-Star break. So 4-0, last 4 for Denver on the road. 3 of those wins coming as a favorite. Now they get Memphis for the first time this season. Grizzlies just beat the Wizards to start the second half. And Memphis still trying to put together a winning streak. Since when they won 7 in a row in late January or mid-January through February, they won 2, lost. Like, they haven't really gotten on any kind of streak. So Memphis looking for that. DeMar DeRozan out for the Spurs tonight. They played the Magic. San Antonio has lost 3 of 4 now. They blew a halftime lead against Dallas. Now they got the Magic, who are playing with no rest, and really Orlando. I mean, they've been terrible on the road. 6 straight losses since winning 3 in a row at home. I think it's 1-11. They are the last 12 as a road dog overall. So I don't know how much faith you have in them. Bam Adebayo still out for the Heat. They played the Bulls for the first time this season, but Miami has played extremely well. Just 1 loss in the last 9 games. And the Bulls' last 2 losses came as a home dog to Phoenix and Denver. So those are obviously very good teams. Now they get the Heat tonight. Look at this number. 17 the Jazz are laying to the Rockets. 17 points. But Utah, I mean, hell, look at some of the games. Laying 12.5, won by 22. Laying 10, won by 21. Laying 12, won by 12. Laying 11, won by 14. Laying 12.5, won by 30. So Utah's not afraid to lay the big number. Now they get Houston. But the Jazz have lost 3 or 4. And Houston, I mean, good luck finding a win. Look at all these losses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 straight losses for the Rockets. And they're 1-13 against the spread in this span. 1-13. Amazing. Pacers and Lakers finish up the night at Staples Center. Indiana's on an 0-6 ATS run, so they need to get something going here. 1-5 in this span, and they should have lost to the Cavs here. Lakers, Suns, and Nuggets. That's a brutal stretch for the Pacers. Lakers haven't been better, though. This is their first game since the break. 2-5, last 7. And the Sacramento game you could throw out. LeBron didn't play, AD didn't play. I mean, Anthony Davis is still out, but losing to Phoenix at home. They're 0-5 against the spread against the East. 0-5 at home against the East. ATS this year, the Los Angeles Lakers. And they've lost to Washington, Miami, Brooklyn. So just throw that number out there for you. Now let's look at tonight's free pick in the NBA. And as just like college basketball, here are the selections, the daily picks for the NBA. And we're going to go with a guaranteed pick. And today we're going to go with Jimmy Adams. So let's see what Jimmy Adams has. And Jimmy has the Lakers-Pacers guarantee. You can buy it for $39.95 normally. We're giving it away here for free on the live stream. And let's see what Jimmy has. Jimmy's laying the points with the Lakers against the Indiana Pacers. And obviously, Indiana struggled. Pacers beat the Lakers twice last year, in fact. But this is the look at an example of a guaranteed pick. You have the selection, you have the analysis, and that's what Jimmy likes tonight. The Los Angeles Lakers against Indiana. And guaranteed have done well here. Done really well on this video, or on the live stream, I should say. The first few days. It is now at 4-1. We were 2-1 the first night, 2-0 last night. So 4-1 on the free picks. And the free picks for tonight, the Lakers in the NBA and UConn in college basketball. So that's what we have for the NBA. I want to take a quick look at this in auto. You have the Instacart 500 out in Phoenix. Chase Elliott, the favorite, followed by Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch. We have seen guys in the middle, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Christopher Bell, Michael McDowell. They have won the first 4 races. When is it going to be that any of these guys up here, guys that played for, or competed, I should say, for the Cup last year, the Final Four, those guys have not won a race yet this year. So do you bet on one of them, or do you take a shot at someone in here, at a Kurt Busch, waiting for Ryan Blaney to break out, or one of the younger guys like a Cole Custer? Almirola, he's struggled. So that's the look for auto coming up this weekend at Phoenix. And they'll close the season out in Phoenix as well later on. So that is the look at Friday and a little bit of the weekend for college basketball in the NBA. And wanted to remind you that we will have a Sunday edition of the live stream when the brackets come out around 6:30 Eastern on Sunday night. We'll have our March Madness edition of the live stream, and we'll go over the brackets as they get revealed. Not sure if any lines will come out by then, but at least let you know who is playing who and where and when. Well, the where we know is Indiana. We just don't know which city it's in. But we will have all of those, and we keep our fingers crossed that there aren't any COVID cases with these teams, that we could have all the games played and not have to worry about any teams advancing without facing an opponent. So we'll see how that one goes. But we'll talk to you again on Sunday night for the live stream, and then we're back on Monday at 1 o'clock, and we'll have the lines and go over all of that when we're back with you on Monday. But Sunday, tune into the live stream, our March Madness live stream. You can find the link on VegasInsider.com on the homepage and also on our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. Thank you so much for watching today's edition of the Daily Insider, and we will talk to you again on Sunday. And as always, best of luck with your bets.